less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cashflow Contractor, short with Martin Holland.
Hello, Cashflow Contractors. This is Martin again. Khalil is still in Morocco. I'm jealous. I've never been there, and I really would like to go. He's completely altered my opinion, or my view, or my presumed view of what Morocco was like, and it sounds like a great place, and I want to get over there. But anyway, he's there, and I'm not, and he has shown me how to do podcasts, so watch out, because now I'm doing podcasts solo. Today, I wanted to talk about an interesting topic that interests most business owners, and that's cash, and why it is that I can make a profit, I can make money, but not have any. That's where I got the name for my book, The Profit Problem. They say I make money, so why don't I have any? Is because I hear that question so often. I make a profit, so why don't I have more money? And a lot of us look to a profit loss statement to answer that question. And doing that is based on an assumption, and it's a rational assumption, and it's this. If I make a profit, it means that my income exceeded my expense. Therefore, I should have more cash than I started with. As I said, that's a rational, it's a logical, it's a well-reasoned assumption, but as it turns out, it's wrong. Cash and profit have very little to do with one another, or at least current cash and current profit have very little to do with each other. There are a lot of things that you can do with cash, and that we all do with cash, that don't directly affect the profit and loss problem statement. So in other words, there are a lot of things that we can do with cash that don't involve expenses or income. So if you've got a problem with cash and you're sitting there wondering what to do about it, the answer doesn't reside in making more sales or even making more profit. I will give a caveat. If you're losing money, it will definitely affect your cash ultimately, and you need to do something about that. But we're assuming you make money, but you don't have any. What happens? How can that be? Well, it turns out there are 4 and only 4 reasons that if you make money, you don't have any cash. And those reasons are, 1, you haven't been paid yet. So you made a profit, you made sales, but you haven't received the funds from your customers yet. The second one is you spent the money repaying debt. Third one is you spent the money buying assets. And the fourth one is that you took the money as draws. Okay, so let me dive into those just a little bit. When you sell something to a customer on credit, you're in effect lending them money, right, as an inducement to buy from you. And because these so-called accounts receivables result from sales, they contribute to profit. They make your profit go up. But because you lent the cash to your customers, they don't contribute to cash. Now, just to show the effect of that, I had a customer a few years ago who made a $350,000 profit at the end of the year. It had over $750,000 lent out to his customers as accounts receivable. That means that this man not only lent his entire profit to his customers, but he also borrowed money from banks and lent that to them too. Okay? So I hope you can see he made a profit, but he had spent his profit by lending it to customers. Spend it might not be the right word. He lent it to his customers. So that's the first reason. I made a profit, but I haven't been paid yet. Okay, the second one is you spent the money repaying debt. Even if you make a profit, and even if all your customers pay you, you won't have any cash left if you already spent the money repaying debt, right? Repayment of debt is not an expense, so it doesn't reduce your profitability, but it does consume cash. Now, just to be clear, what you bought with borrowed funds may or may not be an expense, but paying back debt is never an expense. So debt does not affect your profit and loss, okay? Third thing is you spent the money buying assets. Again, even if you made a profit and even if all your customers paid you, you would not have cash if you had spent it buying assets, things like inventory or equipment or vehicles, things like that. The purchase of an asset, again, is not an expense, and it doesn't reduce profit, but it does consume your cash. Cash often dwindles when a company buys excess inventory or things they don't really need to buy, but they buy anyway to save on taxes, that can consume your cash, and you can still be profitable. Okay, so once again, the cash and profitability are not directly related. So the first one was you haven't been paid yet. The second one was you spent the money repaying debt. Third one was you spent the money buying assets. And the fourth one is that you took the money as draws. Now, presuming it's your company, actually your company, there's nothing wrong with taking money out of the business. That's ultimately the point, right? But if you took out money let me say it this way. The salary you earn as wages is an expense and reduces profit. The money you take out as draws is a distribution of profit. It doesn't reduce profit. It is a distribution of profit. So it's possible to take much more out of the company than you realize. I find that most often with the people I talk with, the owner really doesn't have a solid idea of how much he or she took out of the business. I had a lady a few years ago as a client, and we were trying to figure out her cash flow problems. And I ran through those. She didn't have receivables because she charged everything when it occurred on a credit card. She didn't have any debt that she was, very minimal debt she was paying down. This company didn't have inventory. So I said, well, you must have taken it. And she said, oh no, there's no way I'd taken that. I said, well, how much do you think? And so she gave me a number, how much she had thought she had taken out in the prior 3 months, the most recent quarter. And when we went in and added up the actual numbers, it was 3.5 times higher than her guess. She was just taking money out, sometimes in significant chunks, sometimes just scribbling it out to buy this or that. And she was coding it as, she wasn't trying to expense things to the company, she was coding it as draws. But she had no idea how much money she'd taken out of her business. So those are the 4 reasons, and that's it. If you are having cash problems, it resides in one or a combination of those reasons. Accounts receivable, you haven't been paid yet, you spent the money paying off debt, you spent the money buying assets, or you took it out as draws. And the reason it's important to reduce it to those 4 things is that if you have a problem and you want to fix it, you've got to look to those 4 things. You've got to do prompt billing. You've got to improve your collection procedures. You maybe need to manage your inventory, which is where a lot of cash goes. Buying assets is restocking inventory. You've got to not buy stupid things that you don't really need just because you can save a few $1,000s on taxes. You need to look at the repayment of your debt. Things that we can do to repay debt is perhaps restructure debt so it spreads out over a longer period of time. Maybe manage your debt. Again, don't buy a lot of things that you don't need and wind up with some significant debt payments every month that are sucking up your cash. And then the last reason, of course, is you took the money as draws. You need to know, in my opinion, how much you take out of the business and perhaps structure it and be aware if you're entering cash flow difficulties, then you need to manage your draws, manage your personal spending. Okay, so that's if you're making money and you don't have any, you look to those 4 reasons. But there's something else I want to say about that, is that those reasons I just gave you, those 4 reasons, they work in reverse too. Sometimes you can open up your bank account and you have a surprising amount of cash in there. Say, wow. That's a happy thing, because who doesn't like having extra cash? But it's also a dangerous thing, because if you don't know why you have excess cash, then you're likely, or at least prone, to misspend it, okay? So how can it happen that you collect more in receivables than you lend out in new receivables, okay? If you spend that cash surplus, you may regret it when sales recover and accounts receivable increase and you need to fund them again. Okay, second thing, you borrowed more than you repaid, right? So we said one of the sources of cash shortage is your debt payment, but there are those occasions where we charge more on our credit cards, or we have an increase in accounts payable, or maybe we take out a line of credit from the bank and and draw on it. And if you do that, if you borrow more than you pay back, you can have a corresponding cash increase. But it's really not your money. It's there because you borrowed, but it's not your money, okay? So we need to be aware if our cash increase is due to the fact that we collected more than we tied up, or we borrowed more, or we borrowed more than we paid back, okay? Third reason is you put more money into your business, or you sold more assets than you bought. This can easily happen when you draw down your inventory and you have a low inventory. You've got the money that you had tied up in inventory coming back to you, and you haven't replaced it yet. Well, again, it's one of those things that you need to be aware that that's why the cash is up, because it's very likely you're going to need that cash again to replenish inventory, or perhaps for other purposes. Okay, and then the last one is you put more money into your business than you took out as draws. Now, it's not likely that you would be unaware of that. This just means literally that you wrote your business more checks for more money than you took out as draws. People usually are aware when they do that, and it happens because of the cash crisis, and so you're aware of it. But I just want to make the point that there are times when cash will exceed your expectations, and when that happens, we need to understand why it happened so that we don't misspend the money and come to regret it when we need it later on. So anyway, I hope that kind of simplifies cash. There are only 4 things to consider. Your accounts receivable, have you been paid yet? Your debt payments, your debt service, how much you paid down on your debt, how much you borrowed or paid down on your debt. The assets, did they go up because you bought more, or did they go down because you've sold them off and haven't replaced them? And then, of course, to pay attention to your personal draws. Those are the areas where cash disappears. So if you make a profit but don't have any money, those are the reasons, and that's where you must look for the answer. Anyway, hope that's clear. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. And we'll go out and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to The Cashflow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.